So we're back at the shop, and the spacers for the fuel rail come in, and I got a fitting. I think the barb's too small. I'm going to try it. May be able to get it to tighten down to not leak, but we're going to try to pressure test this fuel system and see if we can't get the fuel lines finished up, and then move on to putting the intake and all that stuff on. So if we can get the fuel rail pressured and no leaks, and we can get the lines pressured and no leaks, we're ready to put all the intake stuff on. So that's where I'm at. So let me work on getting all that sealed and buttoned up, and we'll put some pressure on it and see what we got. So all right, here we go. All right, I don't know if the camera you can see, but I've got that kind of turned sideways so you can see the regulator. I'm gonna add some pressure to it. Let's see if it goes up. Let's see if we leak everywhere. Let's see what we got. My hair pump. Hair going back into the tank. I don't know what the number is there, but let's see. 10, like 30 maybe. Let's see if it adjusts. Oh yeah, it adjusts. Oh yeah. You can hear the pump. I bet this thing's about out of gas. But alright, so we got that. Alright, so I turned the little adjuster on the top of the regulator, and so now it's holding pressure steady, and it don't sound near as bad as what it did. You can't hear the fuel pump as much. Let me do it again. What it was just pushing the fuel in and was just going straight to the back because it wasn't stopping it. So you were just getting the pressure of the pump, and every time I was turning it, it was actually bogging it down. But now that I've got it turned and actually got a solid pressure, it pumps fine, and it'll hold pressure. And the pump's not near as loud. See, that's as loud as it is now. So, now you can see it hold pressure. So it's still holding pressure. So that part, I would go ahead and go as far as saying that I'm ready to put the intake across it. That'll hook up several hoses that are still kind of just laying in the way, and plug up 3 of the 5 or 6 wires that are left. So you can see this combination of, let's say, this hose goes to the throttle body. The vacuum right here goes, this is actually for a map sensor. I don't know if I have to use that yet. This hose goes to the throttle body, or to the throttle body. This one goes to the intake. And I guess I already plugged that injector back up. And then 3 of these wires will go to the throttle body, and that'll leave the mass air flow, and that will leave the oxygen sensor, and that will get us to just about where we can crank it over. We will need a mass airflow. If I've got one and I can do a makeshift one for a minute just to crank the car, we will. But I've got an air intake ordered, the correct one for this motor setup, and we'll go from there. But I'll go ahead and put all this in and hook the vacuums and stuff up, and we will go from there. So, and we still need a radiator hose. All right, here we go. Hope that went under instead of down the runner. I think it went under. Pretty sure. So, got quite a bit done on the 240 with the 2J swap. I put the intake on it, the actual intake manifold. I used the 1J ECU because I didn't have the correct ECU. I didn't know which ECU to use, so I still have to find an ECU. In theory, in my mind, if I use the 1J ECU and the 1J mass airflow sensor, and I got my fuel pressure set pretty close, I think I'm having a starter issue because I've been trying to crank it over a little bit to check, get the oil moving and everything. With that being said, I did find that the bottom bolt to the VVTi, the line that goes up, somewhere in this motor swapping, changing around, doing things, evidently I took that bolt out and it's leaking. So I have to take the belt off the AC pump to get to the bolt, and I have to tighten that bolt to reseal it. So that has to happen too. I did order the hose is at 90s straight, so like it comes out 90s, comes this way, and 90s back. Well, all I need is two small 90s now because I ordered a piece that it's aluminum, and you may have seen it before, and you screw a sensor into it. Well, to screw that sensor into it, that sensor will go to relays, and it's temperature controlled, and it will cause the fans to kick on at a certain temperature. So I ordered the wiring harness for that, the piece to put in line in the hoses. That way I wouldn't have to put it on toggle switch. I don't know that the stock 240 stuff would make the fans kick on, so I just wanted to be safe. I know it's all new anyway. But my windows won't roll up and down. I don't know what's going on there. There's a couple of things that I'm figuring out that I'm gonna have to change or redo, and I'll show it to you in just a second. And I've got it just kind of rigged right now. In theory, this should work. It is leaking oil out of the the VVTi bottom bolt, and I don't have any coolant in it yet. Well, a little bit, but not much. I can't put the top hose on. I've got a few hoses to finish clamping. I ordered the correct O2 sensor, I think it was the downstream O2 sensor is the actual plug. And I did do a aftermarket coolant temperature sensor to actually give me a gauge and everything, because I still haven't figured out which sensor I'm supposed to use. I don't know. It won't plug to anything. I've been through all the 1J stuff, all the 2J VVTi, non-VVTi, and I can't find a plug that hooks it up to the gauge or the sensor itself. So I'm just getting an aftermarket gauge, tie it in somehow, some way, and that should get me, you know, to where I can keep an eye on the temperature of the car itself as I'm driving it. So, got that coming. I got the actual intake for one of these cars. I think it's the one I need. If not, I'll shorten it a little bit. I think it should be okay. The 1J one kind of kicks back out, and I think it kicks about where the battery is. Or I can just go ahead and stick with the battery relocation thing. It's not a big deal on that. I think I can figure it out pretty quick, pretty easy. And I have the wire already ran and everything. So I may go back to that if that ends up being an issue. Yeah, I'm gonna say I'm probably 75% done with this car as far as this swap, because I'll still have to do exhaust. We'll have to do a shakedown on it, and I have to pull that stuff apart to tighten that bolt. So that's going to kind of back me up a little bit. So I'd say 70-75% done with it. But I think I'm ready for a startup. I'm pretty sure I'm letting the battery charge, bumping it over, just making sure I had, you know, voltage to this or that. Just giving it a little test on some stuff. Fuel pressure. It's definitely got oil pressure because it was pouring it out of the VVTi, the bottom bolt. So I think we're pretty close to maybe trying to start it, at least bump it over and see if we can get it to hit or something. So let's give it a shot and see what we can come up with. I've got the heater running, trying to get it warm in here for a minute. It's a little chilly. But this right here, let me pull this battery charger loose. Alright, so as you can see, this right here kicks back this way a little bit. I can probably cut that and go back that way a little bit, but this is one for the 1J. I'll probably just keep it for now. That's the 1J mass airflow. The O2 sensor, I just stuck one in so we wouldn't have an exhaust leak. That's the plug for the wiring harness. Let's see. Yeah, I leaked some oil down through there under the car. I just stuck a cheap vacuum on it, just a vacuum here. It's some stuff I had. There's one vacuum. I'm gonna have to find somewhere to either plug it off or whatever. This doesn't have a map sensor. I will have to figure out something on the throttle cable. I don't know which one I need, but I'll have to find one. This throttle body I've got here, yeah, this hose goes to it. So this hose right here comes off of the, I guess the water line's off the back, and it goes to the bottom of the throttle body. I've got to hook it up and put a clamp on it still. It's kind of hard to get to back there. So I think we're about ready for a startup. And this hose, I had to cut it, shortened it, and that's where it lives, on the bottom of the throttle body. This goes here. The butterfly in the middle, I just done away with everything. With it just sitting like it, with everything unhooked and it just sitting in place, that butterfly is straight. So it should be okay. It shouldn't make it flap or nothing without any vacuums hooked to it. I hope. It's all new to me. But it's in there. piston hooks here. It looked like it was a little cramped where I had it just stuffed back there. I don't really know what to tell you about the reservoir. It was on this with a SR swap at one time and somebody swapped it back, but that's the reservoir. That's the style pump. I don't know what that pump come from or goes to. I guess it's the stock 2J pump, but the lines are different. Maybe it's just the stock 240 lines. But I know one of them is actually cut, and just like a high pressure line is like got barb fittings on it somehow, some way. But yeah, but that's it. Let me get this on a tripod or something, and we'll see if we can't crank this dude. I'm gonna try to crank it real quick. It might take a second. I'll try to edit the time frame out, but it's the starter. You just keep having to bump it or whatever. It's like it just clicks sometimes. Maybe a bad starter. I don't know. Maybe something else, but I think it's just a bad starter. I think I've got another starter, so I have to back up, change the starter, tighten that bolt, and just straighten this stuff out. Maybe change the air intake and some other stuff. But let's give her a start here and let's see what we got. Fiddle with some wires, just check everything just in case. But it's like intermittently starting or cranking over when you fool with the switch. But let me go through some of this wires just to be sure. But yeah, hang on, here we go. Alright, so I redid the battery terminal a little bit. Let's try, maybe it was a contributing factor, I don't know. We'll see what we got. Definitely not running right. I did have two coils in the middle, the coil wires. I'm not 100% certain that there was some questionable things on the diagram, and so there's three wires in the middle to hook up the coils, and I might have got the center one and this side one backwards, because it didn't rev up like it had any kind of, maybe the ECU too though. We'll just have to tinker with it, but it runs. And it leaks oil all over the place on the floor. So I gotta go back and fix a few things. Yeah, I'm not really sure on the way it runs. Well, I'll have to get some coolant in it and I guess test the coil packs and see if I can find, you know, if there's a cylinder missing or something, or just definitely didn't run right. But it runs. It's a step in the right direction. I'm may fool with those two coil plugs and just go ahead and try to swap those and then crank it again and see. It's worth trying. All right, here we go. So after checking into it a little further, the coil packs are right. I went ahead and found the color codes or whatever, schematics to the plugs or whatever, and I checked them. They were good. Could be something to do with the O2 sensor. Could be the butterfly where I left it off. Could be a couple of different things. It could be the 1J ECU on the non-turbo motor. Maybe it's the fuel map's off. I did turn the fuel pressure up a little bit. See what that does. If it doesn't run just right, I'll have to put some coolant in it, run it a little while, and try to fool with it. But if it just seems like it's either too lean or whatever, I just got to get it idling okay with some coolant. That'll actually cause it to clean up a little bit, having some coolant in it with the water pump actually having to work. There's probably a vacuum leak or two and some other stuff. There's no exhaust and there's no O2 sensor and the wrong ECU and the wrong mass airflow. Could be some of that, but we'll see. But yeah, that's it. I'm gonna crank it one more time before I leave or run out of kerosene or whatever, so I don't have any heat. So I'm gonna crank it one more again. Yeah, it ran a little better right there. I upped the fuel pressure just a little bit. That gauge is cheap. The regulator's cheap. Fuel pressure is relevant. Again, got to get coolant in it, get everything up to temperature, get that oil leak stopped, go from there. I think it'll be okay. Now it's just backing up and punting and remedying the oil leaks and tightening up stuff and cleaning it up. It runs. So, alright, I'm pretty excited. I'm not gonna lie. I'm pretty excited about it. My first 2J in a S14, and it runs. I did the 1J, but I didn't have the Wiring Specialties harness. I think that harness is key. Made it so much simpler. I'm not gonna throw off on them, but some of the stuff, they've got a really descriptive thing on their page. Just gonna throw that out there. But I don't know what plug, the ECT, I have to do something different because I couldn't, the engine coolant temperature or whatever, I have to do something different because I can't figure it out and without calling them and sitting on hold or getting put on hold. And this actually happened one time. I got put on hold and they dropped the call. And these guys got things going on, so I don't want to bother them. If it runs and I can figure it out, a few bucks, plus I need the experience anyway. This thing runs. We'll get it straightened out. We'll get it took care of. And then we may sell it. We may drift it. I don't know. More than likely we'll go to a 2JZ ECU, a stock GE, and a stock mass airflow because there's no reason to have these on here. Sell them. Use them on something else down the road. But she runs. Alright, here we go. I'm feeling high.
sky.